Welcome to this episode of Listening with Aga, in which you're going to practice your listening skills and also learn some very useful English phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are incredibly important. So in this video, you will listen to a conversation between two people, and they will be talking about whether it's important to follow your passion in your career. And they will be using lots of phrasal verbs. And I'm going to jump in every now and then and explain the phrasal verbs and give you some more examples. Before we start, subscribe to my channel and let's get this video started.
Hello and welcome. I'm Alex, and today we're talking about an interesting question. Should you always follow your passion in your career?
Hi everyone, I'm Emma. That's a big question. I think many of us think about it.
Exactly. When we're young, people often ask, "What do you want to be?" But things don't always end up the way we plan.
True, sometimes you need time to understand what you really enjoy. It's not always clear.
So Alex said things don't always end up the way we plan. So to end up is a very common phrasal verb. It means that you are finally in a particular situation or place. So for example, if you don't study, you will end up failing the exam. So you will be in that particular situation at the end of the school year. We got lost and ended up in the wrong town. So we finally found ourselves in a particular place.
So Emma, do you think people should follow their passion?
Well, yes and no. I think passion is important, but you shouldn't give up everything else for it.
So Emma said you shouldn't give up everything. To give up something or to give up doing something means to stop doing it. So you can use it in different situations. For example, when you've been trying to do something for a long time and then you stop because you think there is no point, nothing's going to change. I was trying for a long time to become friends with my neighbor, but then I gave up. So I stopped trying. You can also use give up when talking about habits. For example, to give up smoking or to give up sugar. It means you stop having that thing.
That's interesting. So you mean we should be careful?
Yes. For example, if you love painting, that's great. But it might be hard to carry on if you don't earn enough money.
Right. You still need to pay the bills.
It might be hard to carry on. To carry on means to continue.
So maybe it's about balance.
Exactly. You could get a regular job and paint in your free time.
That sounds realistic. But what about people who decide to turn down a safe job to follow their dream?
So Alex said to turn down a safe job. So when you turn something down, it usually means you reject a proposal. So you got a job offer, but you turned it down. You rejected this proposal and you decided to do something else. You can turn down an invitation. So my friend invited me to a barbecue, but I turned down the invitation. I said, I'm not going.
I admire them, honestly. But it's risky. Not everyone can do that.
Yeah, I once had a friend who left his office job because he wanted something more creative.
Oh, really? What happened?
He experimented with different things: photography, writing, even cooking.
That sounds fun.
It was, but also stressful. In the end, he decided to become a photographer.
That's good. At least he found something he enjoyed.
But maybe passion alone is not enough. You also need skills.
And patience. And the ability to solve problems.
That's true. Also, sometimes it's good to have something to fall back on.
Like a second skill or qualification.
Exactly. Something you can use if things don't go according to plan.
So Alex said it's good to have something to fall back on. Something to fall back on is an alternative that you can do or use if something else doesn't work. So for example, if you decide to start a business, but you still have your job, then you've got something to fall back on. It's an alternative. If your business doesn't work, you've still got the job. That's your alternative. So you can rely on it in case things go wrong.
That makes sense. I think many people pick up new skills over time anyway.
Yes, learning never really stops.
Many people pick up new skills. To pick up a skill means to learn it, usually in a very natural way. So you might start a new job and pick up some skills whilst you're doing the job. So you learn things naturally as you work in that job.
But what if someone hates their job? Should they just stay?
Good question. I think if you really dislike your job, you should think about how to move on.
But carefully, right?
Yes, you don't have to quit immediately.
So Alex said if you dislike your job, you should think about how to move on. And move on can have lots of different meanings, but in this situation, it means you leave your job and you find a new one. So you move on. You move on from that job. You change it.
You can make a plan.
Maybe start something small and see if it works.
Exactly. You don't need to make a huge change overnight.
I like that idea. It's less scary.
Also, I think it's important to talk about this topic openly. People don't always bring up their doubts.
That's true. Everyone wants to look confident.
People don't always bring up their doubts. To bring something up means to start talking about it. So people don't always start talking about their doubts. They don't bring them up. Please don't bring up the budget during the meeting. So don't mention it. Don't start talking about it. It also has other meanings. For example, you can bring up children, which means you raise them, you look after them. Or you can bring something up on a screen, which means you make it appear on a screen. Can you bring up that document on the screen?
But in reality, many people are unsure. So, to answer the question, should you always follow your passion?
I'd say follow it, but don't depend on it completely.
That's a great way to put it.
Be realistic, but don't ignore what you love.
Exactly. Life is about balance.
And maybe a little courage too.
I hope you found this episode useful. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.